Hi all, my name is Durga with Somatics, and we are continuing our wellness series, just some practical somatic practices that we can have and practice at home and in our everyday lives, and kind of build and or deepen our practices so that we can practically apply them to our day-to-day living. So today we're going to talk about grounding, and I'm going to share some practices that can help you do that. That can help you ground and be a little more resourced in any given situation. And you know, the disclaimer here though is that these practices are just that, they're a practice, not a perfect. So the invitation is to invite a lot of grace into this space of practice, and to let go of the shoulds and the, I should have practiced an hour a day and instead I only got 3 breaths in. Well, those 3 breaths were really important if you did them with intention. So letting go of perfection and inviting in intention, and letting ourselves adjust our schedules and our practices as necessary, right? We're humans and we have lives, and if you're like me, I have a almost 3-year-old. So my practice has to fit around my family's schedule, because right now I'm a full-time mama. My child needs me all the time. So allowing ourselves the grace to, I might have yoga on my schedule to do 3 or 4 times a week, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. Sometimes all I can do is get into child's pose and cry for 5 minutes, and that's fine. The main thing is carving out a little bit of space for ourselves every day, whether it's 3 breaths or 3 hours, to just be intentional with our breathing and with whatever sensations we're feeling, and allowing ourselves that internal dialogue so we can kind of check our own temperatures and see what's going on and what we need. And that is the practice. And as we do that and we develop a sense of resilience, dare I say, and a sense of ease about ourselves, and a way to kind of handle those moments of overwhelm, then we can allow that to ripple out into our families and our communities, and hopefully across every river and every sea, which is really what all of this is about, right? It's for us, but it's also for everybody else. So with that being said, wellness practices, they can be messy, and they're a bit of an excavation. We're going inward. So it can bring up buried treasure, but it can also bring up buried trauma. So please create for yourself a support system, that 1 or 2 friends that you can call on if something does feel activating to you. There are also peer support warm lines that you can call if you need someone to talk to in the moment. Even crisis hotlines sometimes are necessary. So giving yourself the permission to create support and to utilize that support. Okay, so the invitation here is to take these suggested practices and make them your own. Add your own sparkle. And when we do that, when we personalize rather a wellness practice, then it makes it more appealing and therefore more sustainable. So please sparkle away, make it your own, add the music you want, wear the clothing you want, practice in the space that you want. If that's accessible to you, do it. Make it yours. You don't have to be a cookie cutter, whatever. You get to be exactly your beautiful, unique self, and make your practice a part, an extension of your beautiful and unique self. Okay, so our first practice today is going to be an earth-body connection. So I'm inviting you can stand if you want to. You can sit. I'm sitting on the floor on a cushion, because for me that just feels more nourishing and grounding. But you can also sit at a chair. You can be doing this at your desk at work or your workstation. You could do it in a car, but please don't do it while you're driving. But sometimes the only time we get to ourselves is in the car, when we're in between all the things. So do that then, that's fine. Feel your feet on the earth. So I'm just gonna place my feet in front of me. I'm feeling my bottom on the cushion, my feet on the ground, and I'm just noticing that the earth is supporting me, the ground is supporting me, Maybe your chair is supporting you. Your car seat is supporting you. So notice a feeling of support. And then I'm going to invite you to take that a little bit deeper and kind of press into that support. Maybe tap your feet gently. Sometimes our feet don't have a whole lot of sensation in them. So let's bring that sensation in. Gentle taps until we really feel that connection. That we're not like pushing in and causing more tension in the body, but we are very intentionally connecting our feet to the earth. If that's accessible for our bodies today. So noticing what that feels like. Pressing into the chair a little bit more with our bottoms. Maybe it's helpful to kind of sway side to side. And then find a sense of, or allow a sense of settling. So for me, I'm looking for stillness today. Sometimes I like to sway the whole time. I'm doing a practice like this. And just giving ourselves a moment to really feel the connection between our feet and the earth, between our bottoms and the earth, whatever, our hands in the earth, right? Whatever is connected to the ground, some sort of support, allowing ourselves to really feel that connection. And then bringing our hands maybe to our knees or to the arms of your chair or to the ground in front of you. And same thing, just kind of gently pressing into our knees or into the ground. I'm going to come back to a cross-legged position because that feels better for my body today. And I'm pressing my hands into the earth. I can press onto my knees. That doesn't really feel like what I'm looking for today. This, for me, feels more nourishing. So that's what we're going to do. 1 minute, baby. Okay. So feeling that connection between the earth and my hands, the earth and my legs, whatever is in contact with the ground, just feeling that connection. And then, there's permission here to kind of play and explore and find your landing posture. So maybe you want to move around. Maybe you want to stretch out in front of you. Sometimes we get into a particular shape and then our bodies are like, oh, we want a little bit more. So exploring that and allowing that. So the invitation here is to pause the video and do just that. Be present with that connection and allow yourself to really explore that and enjoy that. And then come back when you're ready, and we're going to come into some gentle movement. So you can come into, for our gentle movement, you can come into a tabletop, and it's basically a cat. We're going to do a seated cat-cow. So if you practice yoga and you want to do a full expression of cat-cow, you're welcome to. I'm going to teach the seated one. You can do this standing. You can do this at your desk too with your hands up on your desk. So I'm going to place hands on my knees. And the invitation here is to listen to your body. We're going to come into this expanded kind of heart opener. And for some of us, that feels really vulnerable and can cause some activation in the nervous system. So if that's you today, then the invitation is to simply take an inhale and roll your shoulders back and really notice that inhale. And maybe you can feel sort of an expansion in your collarbones. You don't have to really take it into this big expression if that's going to be more activating to you. So listen to your body and honor that, okay? So when you're ready, we're going to inhale and take whatever heart opener works for you. So I'm really bringing my heart forward between my arms. I'm going to lead with my chin and lift my head up and really kind of create space here. So you take that as far or as little as you want today. It's your body and you get to make all of the choices that work for you. And then on the exhale, we're gonna round it back so that my chin is gonna come to my chest and I'm really pressing back through the heart space. So either way, it's expansive, right? I'm expanding through the front of the heart space. I'm expanding through the back of the heart space. Keep noticing that connection to the earth as you're doing this. So it's sort of a moving meditation. So I'm just going to invite you to find your expression of that somewhere between this and this, or maybe even this, right? Maybe we bring our arms into it and then bringing it back down. Maybe for you, that exhale looks like dropping your chin down a little bit and kind of letting your shoulders just roll forward. Or maybe it's a lot more and it's folding all the way back and bringing your arms out in front of you. And it's whatever expression feels the most supportive for you. Okay. So, and even as we're inhaling and we're exhaling, we are feeling the connection to the earth, and we're allowing ourselves to really be present with that. So again, pause the video and continue to explore this and notice what sensations arise for you as you're allowing this gentle movement with the intentional breath, and allowing a little more activity in this grounding practice, seeing how our bodies and our nervous systems are reacting to that with compassionate curiosity rather than judgment. And really notice too, does one feel safer than the other? Do they both feel expansive, or does one feel far more expansive than the other? And just kind of noticing, what's happening for you. And then when you're complete with that practice for now, then I'm going to invite you to just come into a seated shape like this in your chair or on the ground. Maybe a hand on the heart, hand on the belly if that's accessible for you today. And finding stillness or maybe a gentle sway, and just noticing any settling, any shifting, again, not with judgment, but with compassionate curiosity. Okay, I needed to assist my toddler. The joy of trying to do this stuff when I'm at home, when I'm flying solo with my kiddo right now. So yeah, hand on heart, hand on belly if that works. Maybe a gentle sway. For me, I'm enjoying the sense of stillness. Notice any settling, any shifting. What sensations are we aware of in our bodies? What emotions are present for us? So with that compassionate curiosity, can we give ourselves a few breaths to simply be with what is in our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts? What's true for us right here and right now? I'm thirsty, that's what's true for me. So taking a moment to just be with that felt sense. And again, pause the video if you want to be in this space a little bit longer. When you're ready, we're going to move on into color counting. So color counting and orienting to the room is what we're moving into now. And what this really does is we've come into our bodies a little bit more. So hopefully we're feeling a little more settled and a little safer here. Now we want to feel a little more settled and a little safer out here with the space that we're physically finding ourselves in. So we're inviting the parasympathetic nervous system to turn on by reducing activity in the limbic system and the amygdala here, and inviting the cerebral cortex to come a little more online. So that's why we're going to add counting and moving our head side to side, because it just invites the cerebral cortex to come and play, which is what we want right now. So pick your favorite color or a color in your space that's really standing out to you. And if your body allows for it, really moving your head side to side and up and down and getting those movements in, because it helps with getting the cerebral cortex online and helping your body to feel a little safer, right? So looking around, and my favorite colors are green and black. There's a ton of green around me. I live in the mountains. So I'm gonna pick out the black, which I try really hard to intentionally bring into my space because it's very grounding for me. So I'm looking around my space and I'm noticing the black things. I'm just gonna start counting them and moving my head side to side and up and down and mentally counting the things in my space that I notice that are black or charcoal, black adjacent. So I invite you to do the same, really, and make the movement, and you can even twist your body around. Like, be very intentional with those movements and invite them in as you're taking in a particular color around you. So what color has your attention? Really noticing, continuing to feel that connection to the earth and to your support while we're taking in the space, and just noticing, oh, I have a lot more black in here than I thought I did. And then we're going to go into a little more of the orienting of the space. So now, as we continue to count the colors or notice the colors, you can let go of the counting if you want to. Now we're noticing, we're looking for shapes, patterns, textures. So I'm noticing with the black things in my space, some things are really rough. Some things have an oblong shape or a round shape. Some things are more smooth and look like they'd be smoother to touch. And I'm noticing other patterns and textures as I'm looking around the space. So invitation to do that, continuing to look around the space. I live in a cabin, right? So there's a lot of wood happening and wood paneling and slats. And so I'm noticing the texture, I'm noticing the rectangular shapes. And I'm letting my eye just really travel all along the space. And I'm seeing, as I'm intentionally noticing patterns and textures, I'm also signaling to my brain that this space is safe. I'm safe in this space right now. And then we'll continue to add to that. So again, feel free to pause the video as much as you need to. We're going to invite the 5 main senses into this practice. So we've visually taken in our space. Now, what are we hearing? What do we hear? I'm hearing the music that I'm playing, which is the 9 Inch Nails Ghosts 1 through 4 vinyl. That's what I'm listening to. I'm hearing the music, but I'm also hearing that delicious crackling of vinyl, which I love, and that richness that it brings. I'm a musician, right? And I used to work in music production, and so there are those nuances in music that really are important to me. So I like it when I can actually hear that. So I'm present to that. I'm also hearing my son as he's playing upstairs. And I'm hearing his toys, and I'm hearing him and his imagination just going off. I can hear a little bit of the birds outside, but mostly I'm hearing the internal sounds. I can hear a little bit of what's happening outside, but mostly I'm hearing what's internal. So noticing what you're hearing. What do you hear in your space? I'm continuing to feel that connection to the earth, and I'm continuing to kind of look around. I'm looking at the record player and seeing the record spin. I'm hearing the sound. Or maybe for hearing, it feels better to just come into stillness and close the eyes. That's what I do when I'm doing like a music meditation. Okay baby, 1 minute. I will close my eyes and let myself just really kind of get lost in the sound. So for this practice though, we're doing this orientation where we're inviting the senses in. So I'm going to practice this with my eyes open, but you can close your eyes too, especially if you're prone like me to sensory overload. Sometimes it's easier to just really concentrate on one sense at a time, or just pick one to focus on at any given moment. That's totally fine too. Also, what do we feel? What do our hands feel? Maybe there's something inviting in front of us, like the wool on my slipper that's very soft and inviting. Maybe we can notice what the clothing on our skin feels like. What does the air, the temperature in the room feel like? So a sense of feeling as well. Okay. And then what do we smell? So I'm not noticing any particularly strong scents right now. Maybe some soup. I'm noticing the smell of soup from earlier today. The smell of wood. We recently had some rain, and I can still smell some of that damp earth that kind of seeps in from the outside. Smell can really be connected to memory. So sometimes we'll smell something, like I'll smell a particular soup and it makes me think of my grandma, and that can feel really comforting for a moment. It can also bring up a lot of grief because she's no longer here on this earth with us. So as we're going through these sensory things too, feeling that connection to the earth, but also noticing whatever emotions might be rising for us. And if there's activation, acknowledging that and giving ourselves permission to kind of back away from that as well. We don't always have to go headlong into trauma. There's a time and a place for that. And when we're wanting to ground and really orient into a space, that's not the time to, I'm triggered, I'm going to really go into this trigger and deal with it right now. That's not the time. Right now we want to create a sense of safety and a sense of well-being. So we're and settling. So if something comes up that feels activating, just go back to focusing on one of the other senses if you're able to. And if you're not able to, go to a different practice or call somebody in your support system. Okay? And then finally, what do we taste in our mouths? So if you have a beverage, maybe take a little sip. If you don't, that's okay. I'm noticing that tastes sweet and earthy. So what do you taste in your mouth? And noticing those sensations that come up as we're traveling through all of these sensory experiences. And we don't have to do them all at once. We're going through them one by one as we allow our nervous systems to settle. And oh, there's a little bit of activation. So I'm going to go back to what I hear instead of what I smell, because that scent activated me a little bit. Or, oh, you know what? That sound is a little bit grating. So I'm going to go back to feeling my feet on the ground and just noticing what this cotton cardigan feels like. So always allowing ourselves to cycle back or cycle forward if that's what's going to be helpful for us in these practices. Not every practice works for every person. That's why I'm giving you so many, so that you can play around with them and discover what's going to serve you best. So, notice how engaging each sense with intention affects our nervous systems, and our ability to feel a little more settled and grounded in the body and in our space, or the opposite, and giving ourselves that permission, right, is such a beautiful gift. When we give ourselves permission to practice in a particular way and to find our sense of safety and pull back and go forward in a way that feels safer for us in a container like this, a practice container like this, then we're much more likely to give ourselves that permission when we're out and about in our daily lives too. If something doesn't feel safe, we can notice that internal warning system in a way that's not overwhelming. This doesn't feel right for me. I'm going to, if possible, exit this situation, right? Or, this feels really settling to me. I think I want to go forward with this project. So it's learning how to decipher what our bodies and our nervous systems are communicating with us in a safe container, so that we can continue to do that beyond these containers out in the real world. Okay, so finally, we're just going to come into some butterfly taps and hugs. So the invitation here is to find this little pocket. This is called your AC joint. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the actual elongated name of the joint. We're just going to call it the AC joint. And it's right here where your clavicle and shoulder bone meet. And there's something about this spot. I'm not remembering exactly, but I had a therapist once tell me that this is a really grounding spot to just kind of gently put pressure on when we are feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes, we're just out and about and there's not much we can do, but maybe you can just gently press on this area and it can be settling. I have found that to be true for me. So butterfly taps are crossing your hands over your heart, again, whatever is accessible for your body today, and gently tapping on that AC joint. You can tap, I like to alternate and be pretty gentle. You can tap a little with a little more pressure if that feels better for you, and at a speed that feels appropriate for you. And just taking time here to be with that and noticing if that feels settling for you. I also really like a butterfly hug. So crossed arms and just giving myself a squeeze or squeezing my arms, that can feel really settling and really grounding, especially if we're people who crave touch and maybe we don't have a lot of people to give hugs to or to receive hugs from in our lives. Or we just need one in a moment when we don't have somebody present to give that to us. We can give ourselves that hug and that squeeze and, that reminder that we are loved. Another practice that I really appreciate that's not specific to this grounding set of practices is looking myself in the mirror and saying, I love you. And I know that can sound so elementary, but I once had a wellness practitioner recommend that to me, and I was like, I thought it was ridiculous. And then I tried to do it and I couldn't. I could not look myself in the mirror and say I love you without sobbing. And it's a practice that I try to incorporate quite regularly now. I'll look myself in the mirror and say, I love you, I see you, I hear you. Because sometimes we feel so unheard and so unseen in our lives and in our jobs and in relationships, and we can give that to ourselves. So giving those squeezes and just reminding ourselves, even mentally, internally, I love you and I see you and I hear you and I'm here for you. Just reminding ourselves that we're not alone. We've got us. Can be a really, really powerful practice in and of itself. And, when we're out in public, maybe you can't just give yourself a big hug, but you can maybe just kind of give one arm a squeeze, right? So finding ways to make these practices accessible to ourselves when we're out and about and in the public eye. So that's just another thing that we can do. So noticing our sensations, feeling the connection to the earth, noticing our breathing. How does this feel? Maybe it's not our cup of tea, and that's okay as well. You can also do kind of arm sweeps. I want to sweep this energy away, give it all to the earth. You can do that as well. That's another kind of very body-centered practice that we can do. So let's bring it full circle. Pause the video here if you want to practice those a little bit more. And then we're going to bring it full circle and just do one more check-in before we close our time together. Okay, I have to do one more check-in on the kiddo. So, coming back now to that place of stillness or gentle sway, maybe hand on heart and hand on belly. Notice any settling, any shifting, any activation, whatever we're noticing, giving ourselves full permission to just let that be what it is without having to change it or justify it. Just, this is what I'm noticing. So what sensations are you aware of in your body? What emotions are present for you? And with that compassionate curiosity, we can give ourselves a few breaths to simply be with what is. No judgment, no changing, just noticing. In our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts, what's true for us now? You can pause the video, really delve into this if that serves you in your practice right now. And then, creating an intention. What's one practice that we can take with us out of this time together, and out into the world with us? What's one thing that we can do? Maybe we're gonna try to incorporate butterfly taps or just simply feeling our feet on the ground when we transition, right? Those transitions can be so transitioning from getting out of bed in the morning, transitioning to getting into the car, transitioning to getting to work or school or the market or wherever we're going, school, dropping the kids off wherever that might be. These transitions are a moment to check in. So maybe it's setting that intention of, okay, every time I get in my car, I'm gonna close the door, I'm gonna check in. I'm gonna feel my butt on the seat of the chair, and I'm going to just give myself 3 breaths to check in and notice what I'm feeling. It's a great practice to have. So just picking 1 or 2 or whatever is going to work with your schedule in a realistic way, and just setting that intention of, I'm going to take this practice with me. And if it doesn't work out every day, it doesn't work out every day. And if you need to shift and change the practice and adapt it to your body's needs or your schedule's needs, all of it's okay, because it's a practice, not a perfect. And we're figuring out how to allow these practices to show up and support us. So that is just as much a part of the practice as each of these exercises are. So giving ourselves, again, the space and the grace to experiment, play, change it around, whatever we need to do. All right. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve you. And just as a gentle reminder, if you want to, really dive in and develop a somatic practice and do some one-on-one work with me, I am available virtually and in person if you are local in Riverside County, California. So let me know. You can email me, and I have sliding scale and all of the things. So don't, there's no need to let anything hinder you from your wellness and your practice. Okay. Thanks so much for allowing me to serve you and practice with you. It's always a joy. And until next time, bye.